Welcome to SBU 67D Principles of Management 1. My name is Felicia Frida Aiden Aqua, and we're going to be discussing on Decision Making Unit 5. Yes, every manager ultimately, ideally, will be making decisions, and not just managers, as individuals, we make decisions as well. So, this session 1, we're going to look at the nature of decision making. By the end of the session, you should be able to define decision making. You should be able to understand the decision making models and the processes that go into decision making. You should be able to know the conditions under which managerial decisions are made as well. So, what is decision making? So, we're saying that basically, when we're looking at decision making, we're looking at managers being able to identify organizational problems and attempt to solve it. As individuals, there are things that would happen, situations, problems, or things that would come up, which we have to face or solve and decide about how to go about it. So a decision could be made on a personal basis or on a group basis. Within the organization, the manager can make some decisions alone. There are some decisions which you'll use, we have to do it on the team level, departmental level, on the group-based level. And so decision making could be either personal basis or on the group basis as well. And it could be simple, like deciding the next item to introduce. It could be simple, like knowing or buying a machine, like a pen. Then I make cake. So it could be as simple or as complex as anything. So it could be as simple as maybe what's new table we should buy for a new employee we've gotten for them to be able to get a place to sit, or as complex as developing a new product line for our business. And so decision making, this is how it can be in an organization. Now there are different decision making models. There are 4 very popular decision models, which is the rational, the bonded rational, the intuitive, and then the creative decision making models. We'll be looking at these individually in the subsequent sessions as well. There are some conditions that would make managers take decisions, or decision conditions for decision making. One of it is decision making and the conditions of certainty. There are some things that surely they always happen, for which we have to decide on what to do with them. And so when it comes to programmed decisions or programmed decision making, these are things that they always happen, and so we need to have a standing plan or something for it, so whenever it happens, you know what to do about it. There are also decisions making under risk. There are lots of risk and uncertainties in the world we find ourselves as businesses and as individuals, and we need to know how to handle these, how to work with them as and when they also happen. And then there's also decision making conditions of uncertainty. When COVID-19 took us by surprise in 2020, we all had to go into lockdown. This was totally uncertain. It was never known to us, and so you realize that even if you had your already established plans, it didn't fit anywhere in there. And so sometimes managers would have to make decisions based on conditions of uncertainty. And so we're going to look at all of these in this session, in this unit, as we go on further as well. So some of the approaches to decision making in organizations is: 1, We have the individual versus the group approach. Should the manager do the decisions alone, or should they involve other people? Should it be just done on the team level, or what? We're going to look at that in there. We also have the centralized versus the decentralized approach. So centralized means decision making is entrusted in a few limited hands, and then the decentralized is everybody is involved in there. But you should know that it's not every decision that is supposed to be centralized. It's not every decision that's also supposed to be decentralized. When it comes to information which is confidential or critical decisions, obviously it has to be centralized. So depend on the type of decision that has to be made and the degree of severity of it, then we're going to know whether I should go decentralized or centralized. The two of them, none is in itself the best and none is in itself the worst as well. We also have the democratic versus the consensus approach. All of this are approaches to making decision making in organization. Consensus is we all come into complete agreement that this is what we want to do, and we go by it. Democratic means you give people the opportunity to also air their opinions. If you give your opinion, I can use it, I can decide not to use it. It's a suggestion, it's not mandatory. But when we go with the consensus, that means that we've all agreed to that thing and we must all stick by it. And so different decisions are made in the organization, and basically these are some of the approaches we use in solving these problems as and when they happen. So if decision making is so beautiful, what are some of the barriers to effective decision making? Some barriers to effective decision making is one, what we call improper definition of the problem. If you go to the doctor and you don't describe or tell him all your symptoms, signs, and things properly, he will give you a wrong diagnosis and give you wrong medication, and your problem will still be there. And so if we don't properly define your problem, it becomes even hard to solve that problem for you, and so decision making will be flawed from the start. Inadequate or unreliable information inputs, like I said, garbage in, garbage out. If you give the wrong information to your doctor, he would also give you wrong medicine, wrong prescription as well. Reliance on subjective psychological biases. When it comes to decision making as managers, as much as possible, subjectivity should be put aside. Objectivity is what we want to do. Base it on facts. Be very objective and not just subjective. What you think or what you feel is right or what you feel is supposed to be. And we also look at the issue about planning. If planning is done hastily or poorly, you realize that even communication, even implementation and control systems would not function properly. And so when you're not able to properly plan your implementation and control system, you're also going to have issues when it comes to implementing your decisions. Because yes, you've made a decision, you have this problem, this is your solution, this is how you're going to go about it. If you're not able to plan for how the solution is supposed to be implemented and then controlled, just in case deviations happen, it's not going to be able to meet that target. And another barrier too is the time and cost at the tick of the business. Sometimes managers don't have so much time, sometimes employees don't have so much time, and so decision making is one thing which is very timely and costly, and so it can be a barrier to effective decision making. If you don't put in the right quality time and money into it, you won't be able to achieve So how then do we overcome the barriers to effective decision making as we've stipulated earlier? One is to survey the full range of objectives to be fulfilled. We made mention that the first thing is if you're not able to state the problem well, then the solution won't work. And so we need to look at the full objectives which need to be fulfilled. Then we need to thoroughly canvass alternatives, courses of actions to also undertake, and then weigh each action or each course of action to go with the benefit as well as the cost. In management, we always say that your cost should never would outweigh the benefit. At least they should be equal. If the benefits are more, then that is good, but then your cost should never be more than the benefit. And so we need to check for each course of action and see which one gives us the best results, like more benefit, less cost. And we need to also go on to further look out for what intensive search for relevant high quality information for evaluating our alternatives. We realize that we made mention that information, if you don't get the right input of information, you're not going to succeed in them. You also need to take into account new advice or information you will be exposed to in your decision making process. You need to re-examine all the possible consequences of the alternatives before you make that final decision that I'm going to go with alternative B or this idea B instead of idea C or idea D. I need to make detailed provisions when it comes to how to implement that chosen action. If you have the best action and you don't know how to implement it or put in place the various details into implementing this, you may end up not being able to achieve the goal of that decision making process. And so these are key things we need to look out for if we want to overcome some of the barriers to effective decision making. So in this section, we've looked at decision making in here by looking at the nature of decision making. Thank you.